Discover how to create a stunning small wooden trinket box using decoupage, crackle effects, and an air dry clay embellishment. Perfect for storing jewelry, coins, or other small treasures. Hello, my crafty friends. I'm Donna from Mason Creations, etc., and welcome to my channel. Are you ready to get creative and make your own decorative wooden trinket box that reflects your personal style? Well, let's get busy and make a mess. I'm using this cute little wooden box to create the prettiest little trinket box. It has a few rough edges, so I'm giving it a quick sanding to make sure it's nice and smooth. And I'm making sure to wipe off all the dust from the sanding. I'm using one of Dixie Belle's newest colors. It's called Magnolia and is part of their newest Southern Roots collection. All the colors are just beautiful, but this one will make a nice base for decoupaging because it's light enough. It's such a beautiful creamy white. And of course, Dixie Belle chalk paint is just amazing. It goes on really smooth and creamy. Make sure you always paint white or a very light off-white wherever you're going to decoupage rice paper or a napkin. White allows the colors in your images to look more vibrant. Dark colors will make your images look dark and muddy. This and all the products you're going to see me use today came from decoupagenapkins.com, my wonderful sponsors. This rice paper is absolutely gorgeous. All the flowers and leaves are trimmed in gold. I'm mixing up some paint that will match the roses in this paper. I'm using Pentart paint in the colors Rose and Compact Powder. The roses appear to be pink, but they're actually a little on the peach side. I always mix up my paints in these little 2-ounce plastic containers. They have a lid so my paint will stay fresh for at least the duration of my project. And when you're finished with your project, you can just throw them away. I don't want to have to mix this color again should I run out, so I always mix a little more than what I think I'll need. Matching it again a second time would be almost impossible. I just went back and forth with the two colors until I liked the color of the paint, and it seems to be just about perfect. And I'm using this color on just the top of the lid. I'll let everything dry for about 30 minutes. I'm going to paint around some of the edges gold. I'm using Pentart, but in white gold. It matches the rice paper better than a bright gold. Painting the small edge is best done with a sponge, but there will still be some touch-ups. On the top edge of the bottom of the trinket box, I sponged the gold paint on and it gave it almost a hammered look. I'm going to add a crackle finish to the top side of the lid. I'm using Folk Art one-step crackle medium. I'm brushing one coat over top of the colored paint. This pink peach color will be what shows through the cracks. And I'll let that dry for about an hour. The crackle medium is dry, and now I'm adding a coat of the Magnolia color over top. As I'm painting it on, you'll see it already start cracking. Try to do even strokes and try not to go over the same area more than once. It might look like you've missed a spot, but it's most likely a crack starting to form. If you paint over it again, it will disturb the cracking process. As this continues to dry, more and more cracks will form. I'm getting my rice paper prepped now. I'm cutting 2 strips that are 2 inches high, which will go on the outside of the trinket box. Where are you watching from? Let me know in the comments. It's fun to see what cities and countries you are all watching from. I'm filming from Las Vegas, Nevada in the United States. I'm also cutting out 2 4-inch circles that will go on the underside of the lid and in the bottom of the trinket box. Okay, let's get to doing some decoupage. The side of this little trinket box is domed, so the only way to get the paper to lay flat is to put some little tears at the top and bottom of the paper. The little pieces of paper will overlap each other instead of causing a wrinkle. Everything will lay nice and flat. I'm using Polyvine's Decorator's Varnish as my decoupage adhesive today. You can use this product as a varnish and an adhesive. All the Polyvine formulas can double as a decoupage adhesive. It works so much better than the most popular brand of decoupage glue. It's not a glue, so it doesn't go on thick and lumpy. It's a varnish, so it dries crystal clear and will never yellow. I'm brushing down all those little pieces and making sure they overlap neatly. If my brush gets dry, I add more varnish. I sprayed a piece of plastic cut from a Ziploc bag with some water. I'm using this to press the paper down and rub out any bubbles or wrinkles. Now I'm adding the second piece of paper and butting it right up to the edge of the first piece. Since this paper has such a busy pattern, you won't be able to see the seam. I'm doing everything exactly as I did with the first piece. DecoupageNapkins.com has such a great selection of napkins that you can purchase one at a time. They carry many other craft supplies such as rice paper, paint, clay, molds, and a great selection of Polyvine products. Over 9,000 products and growing. They are wonderful to work with and will send your order out fast. You'll receive free shipping on orders over $75 and special bonus points for orders over $100. Subscribe to their newsletter by entering your email address and you'll receive 10% off your next order. They are truly your one-stop shop for craft supplies. Make sure you check them out. I'll be leaving links for all the products I use in my description box below. I let that dry for a couple of hours, and now I'm sanding off all the excess paper hanging over the edge. I'm using a medium grit sandpaper, and it just shears it right off at the edge of the wood. Better than what you can get with a pair of scissors. I'm adding one of the circles to the bottom of the box on the inside. I'm adding the other circle to the underside of the lid. If you're enjoying this video, please let me know by hitting that like button. And why not share this with a friend? Thanks for doing that. You won't want to miss any of the new projects coming up, so don't forget to subscribe. After the paint dried, I gave my entire piece a coat of Polyvine Heavy Duty Wood Varnish in a satin finish. 2 or 3 coats of this gives you a beautiful shine that's moisture and high heat resistant, as well as high chemical resistant, high stain resistant, high abrasion resistant, and food safe. This works wonderful on any painted or decoupage surface or shiny surface that has been coated with Polyvine multi-surface lacquer. I let that dry for an hour between each coat and an hour after the final coat. I've had a few people ask me if this varnish has a strong smell. No, it does not. It's water-based, so there are no harmful fumes at all. I want to cover up the slight gap between the paper and the side of the box on the inside. I'm going to add a string of pearls. I'm using Aleene's Tacky Glue Pen. This is nice because it gives you a thin, precise bead of glue. Now here's how to get an incredible shine with the satin finish heavy duty wood varnish. After an hour and my first coat of heavy-duty wood varnish is dry, I'm sanding my piece with some fine grit sandpaper very lightly and wiping off the dust. This time I'm going to use Polyvine's varnish brush to apply the heavy-duty wood varnish. This brush is designed to eliminate brush strokes and leaves a beautiful self-leveling shine. You can do this same procedure more than once. Keep sanding and adding another coat until you get the desired shine. Just make sure you let it dry for at least an hour between coats. After some careful consideration, really not much at all, I decided to paint the underside of the lid the white gold, and I think that looks so much prettier. I'm using Doss clay, which is my favorite clay, to make a small embellishment for the top of the lid. DecoupageNapkins.com has a new line of silicone molds, and this small white mold is part of their new Accent Mold series. They are quite reasonably priced and have such amazing detail. And there's quite a large selection to choose from. My crafty friend Shirley M. from Rhode Island bought this same mold and wanted to see what I was going to do with mine first. So Shirley, this video is for you, my messy friend. I'm pressing the clay into the mold and then rolling it to make sure the clay gets into all that amazing detail. I'm removing all the excess clay with my palette knife and then smoothing it with a little bit of water. If you want to see an in-depth video on how to work with air dry clay, click the banner in the top right corner of your screen. I'll also leave you a link for that video in my description box below. Now I'm going to put this in the freezer for at least 20 minutes. The freezer makes the clay rigid, so it just pops right out of that mold and nothing delicate breaks off. Look how easily this removes from the mold. There are a couple of tiny leaves that remained intact. After unmolding, I removed a few excess pieces of clay and cleaned up the edges a little bit. The lid has a little bit of a dome shape, and I'll need this clay to conform to that shape. It's still a little frozen, so I'll give it just a couple of minutes to thaw before gluing it. The clay is thawed, and in order for it to conform to the shape of this lid, I need to glue it down while the clay is still wet. I'm using Aleene's tacky glue. This glue is great for wet clay. I'm lightly pressing down all the edges of the clay so there are no gaps between the clay and the lid. And look at all the cracks in that lid now. Any glue that seeps out from under the mold, I'm wiping off right away. I let my clay dry overnight, and now I'm using Pentart paint in the color light brown to paint the entire mold. I'm going to do kind of a reverse antique today. I'm adding the brown as my antique, and then I'll be painting colors on top of the brown. I paint all of the largest area first, and then I'm going back and very carefully painting all the edges. That will need to dry for about an hour. I test all the products that I recommend in my videos. I won't recommend anything that I haven't used myself and prefer. If I'm recommending it, you can bet it's a great product. Each product will be listed in my description box below and will have a blue link to make it easy for you to find. Any of the links I provide are safe for you to click on. I'm giving just the background area with all the cracks a coat of heavy-duty wood varnish. I want to seal it, so if I should slip with any paint, it'll just wipe right off. Actually, I really should have done this prior to painting the brown paint as well. Luckily, I didn't have any accidents. I'm going to let this dry for about an hour before moving on. Remember that pretty peachy pink color I mixed up? I'm going to paint the flowers with that color. I'm only dragging my brush over the top of the flowers. I'm not painting the entire thing, just along the top edges of the detail. This will leave the brown in all the cracks and crevices, serving as antiquing. I'm using Pentart Vintage Green for all the foliage. I'm applying it in the same manner, dragging my brush along the tops of all the detail. And now white gold for the shoe. I almost always use Pentart paint for my projects. They are amazing paints that go on so smoothly and have fabulous coverage. Even the metallic paints cover in one coat. I'm going to add a little antiquing around the clay mold to make it stand up from the background and give it some dimension and a little bit of a vintage vibe. I'm using a glazing medium to make my antique. I put a small amount of glaze in a tiny paper cup, about a teaspoon, then added just a small amount of paint using my brush and mixed it up. The glaze keeps the paint from drying quickly, which gives you some extra workable time. I love mixing up my own antique. This way I can use any color paint I want to. By using different colors, you can get really creative. I'm brushing it around the perimeter of the clay embellishment and then wiping it off right away with a soft dry cloth. I get a lot of questions about how I clean my brushes after all the products I'm using. Everything you've seen me use today is water-based, so they will all clean up with soap and water. I use Speedball pink soap for brushes. I'll leave you a link in my description box below. It works really well. It seems to remove paint you didn't even know was still in your brush. I think you'll like it. Don't forget, all of the wonderful products I'm using today can be found at my favorite place for craft supplies, decoupagenapkins.com, and I'll leave you links in my description box below. I used a Q-tip for any tight areas. I used Aleene's tacky glue to attach some pearls around the outer edge of the lid. I let that dry for a couple of hours. After the glue dried, I added a coat of heavy-duty wood varnish on the entire top of the lid to protect everything I just did with the antiquing and pearls. I'm using some large wooden beads to make some feet for the bottom of the trinket box. I put them on the end of a paintbrush and painted them all white gold. I stood them up in a cup and let the paint dry for about an hour, then gave them all a coat of heavy-duty wood varnish. I let the varnish dry for an hour, and now I'm going to add the feet to the bottom of the box. I used some painter's tape to put an X on the bottom. This way I have 4 sections, one for each foot. This makes it really easy to judge where to put each one without actually measuring. It wouldn't be me if there wasn't a little shimmer added, so I'm using some wax rubs to create a pearl look on the molded embellishment. I'm adding white pearl to the flowers, shoe, and foliage. I'll add white gold to the pearls around the edge. The white just brightens everything up and adds some highlights. I'm putting a small amount of the rub on my finger and rubbing it together with my thumb. Smearing it around like that prevents a large amount of your product ending up in one place. And a pink rhinestone in the center of the flower just completes the look. I put together a playlist of some other tutorials you may enjoy. Click the picture on the right to be taken directly to that playlist. I'm so happy you were here with me today, and thanks so much for watching. I can't wait to see you all next week. I'm working on a new project with you in mind. You can subscribe by clicking my picture in the top right corner.